Welcome to Gray Overload. There is going to be some changes to the app distributions options in the European Union. And I want to talk about this of how Apple is keeping its iron grip on its store, even though that you're going to have more options. Because as much as I would like to see a more open ecosystem on a lot of these platforms, it doesn't seem like that is the direction it is going, even when you have a law like in the European Union that is trying to make that the case. It seems like Apple's tightening its grip on this rather than loosening it up and allowing third-party app stores to flourish against its own app store. It's almost like Apple doesn't want the competition, even though in their whole thing they say they want to support your privacy. And this is the one downside I think that has happened with the European Union trying to do this is that instead of opening it up, remember Windows had the browser ballot, where you could select which browser it is, which I would have been great if that was also in the United States and everywhere else. But Windows ecosystem was more open because you could have, even in the US, went and installed a different browser with a different engine and used it. Here in Apple's case, it's Safari and that's it, right? And now that the European Union has done this, Apple kind of went down the road of saying, how do we control it, not how do we compete with it? And this is always a negative side for end users. I mean, I believe in user choices should be very important in these scenarios. You should be able to choose where you get your apps. You should be able to own your own stuff. Um, you should be able to have those things. But it seems like here, Apple is going to give you the option for this to be able to go on third-party stores, but they are going to control it the entire way. And this all kind of stemmed from a lot of it was, the Epic Games where they were able to finally get and break Apple in some certain areas talking about this. There was court cases here, and Epic Games said that they're going to have a store, which I think will have Fortnite on it probably. But there's some progress there. Microsoft is looking into it as well, and I know I was doing some reading on Spotify, even went through and they have a blog post or a newsroom article on and it's titled this, Time to Play Fair, Apple's proposed changes reject the goal of the DMA, Digital Market Act, which is an EU item for this. So it is interesting. I'll go through that as well, but what's Spotify said. But let's start with Microsoft here as we dive into some of the things that have been saying. As we go through these, you'll kind of see how it starts stacking up of Apple really trying to hold the iron grip across you having the ability to choose where you want to get your apps. And then I'll get into kind of the downsides of all this, right? Apple has went through, I read their newsroom article, it has gone through and say we cannot guarantee privacy on all these apps, right? Well, Apple's not really concerned about privacy in my opinion. They say it, they try to make you believe it, but all the data and unsecured, all the data that they send back without your permission, even if you don't have an Apple account or iCloud account, all that data that gets sent back, and there's data that's sent back in unsecure, HTTP, all that other stuff that's out there that you can go take a look at. I think, and all the data collection that they have, that's not really the most privacy-driven side Apple. So if you're trying to be on privacy and you're still collecting all the data, and somebody's going to argue, but it's Apple, they're not selling the data. If you have your data taken away from you and they store it for you, is that really then your data, or has that now transferred to also being shared data or their data? I kind of, privacy is me keeping the data and not being able to share it elsewhere. But you get into it, and Microsoft has gone through, because of course they want to put Xbox games. I have a game store, I'm guessing, especially after everything they just bought with Activision Blizzard King. They want to get that onto the store and be able to do it. And remember, game streaming, that was kind of shut down as well. Apple didn't like that, of how that would compete with games or whatever BS they kind of made up with there. So you go through, and while they said, we believe constructive conversation, driving change and progress towards an open platform and greater competition. Apple's new policy is a step in the wrong direction. We hope that they listen to our feedback on their proposed plan and work towards a more inclusive future for all. And this was Sarah Bonsera on Twitter. I'll post that. She is a, I think she's up in gaming executives. Um, but she was, voicing her concern about that. And, with Apple, what it's going to do here is that it wants to be able to have you access, but Apple is going to take 17% of all apps sold outside the App Store. And that commission, with that commission reduced from before. So there's still a charge that's happening, commission that Apple's going to take. And maybe it makes sense, but 17% is still kind of high. Yet there is going to be a core technology fee for first install apps of the app, which is every year, that is only waived if you are less than 1 million installs, and then over that it starts hitting. So this is how convoluted it is. Apple has came up with a calculator to help you out to see how much you'd have to be paying into this and everything else. I've seen somebody on YouTube go through and show how you may be losing money if you have like a viral app and then all of a sudden it gets hit, and then yeah, month or month you could be paying more than what you're actually making. I hope that's not. I hope that if that is the case, Apple fixes it. But I really hope that that's not the case, right? You had the the CEO of Spotify, Daniel. He goes through and he says on Twitter here, which I plan to post this as well. After sitting with our legal team to parse through the fine print of Apple's DMA announcement, that took a while. I bet it did. It's taken me a couple weeks from everything or a week from everything I've seen to surf through everything, but which is best and at best vague and misleading. I want to share my thoughts. While Apple has behaved badly for years, no, really, what they did yesterday represents a new low even for them. See the info here, and I will post this in the description of what Spotify has been done. So they have gone through and written a nice little blog, and to summarize, they have 3 main points. One is the completely new 50-cent euro per download fee every year in perpetuity to Apple for just allowing developers to exist on iOS. It's extortion, as he puts it here, yes. Apple's already charging a commission of 17% and 10% for a recurring payment on digital goods purchased. And yeah, that's what's happening. You can go read the Apple stuff. And that, to me, that's just insane, but that's just me, and maybe maybe there's a way to make this work. It just seems that Apple is keeping that grip and saying, I'm not letting go of this app store. If you want to have multiple app stores or allow other app stores, we're going to make sure that we're the best one and just never let go. That's kind of what I'm seeing here. Number 2, Apple's still charging a 17% rent on developers for existing in the App Store if they offer alternative payment methods or link to their own websites. Remember, you can link to your own website, right? All that payment had to go through Apple before, which can be a hit, right? 30% hit every single time on a recurring payment that for your service that you're providing eats into it, and Apple's doing nothing, right? You're only living on their device. You're not even going through and Apple's not doing anything but taking that charge, right? And 30% is high. Credit cards aren't 30% when you run it through there, right? They have a fee, but it's not a 30% fee. And Apple is offering alternative app stores, but are they really? And this is actually, a good one where he goes in with the commission with the 50-cent core, 50-cent euro core technology fee install per year, and it's basically trying to make the old rules worse so that you stay with them, and they're just grabbing you and holding you tight so that you cannot move on from the Apple App Store. They're basically forcing the developers to stay, hey, you have to stay with us. One other thing as well, and it was in here too, that Apple is also Apple also requires you. Where was this? This was someplace. It might have been on Apple's newsroom. Is that they still require you to go through and have them do a review of your app. To me, that should be the app store of what you're going, or the new app store to what you're going with, not Apple's also getting their hands into that to review that app before it can be put on a different app store. That makes no sense. Um, Apple's concerned that, there will be they're also worried the refund process. You won't be able to have a fast refund. Uh, this is why why are you caring about the other platform's refund process? If there's not going to be a good process for a refund for something that didn't work out, they're not that store's not going to last anyways. So why is Apple trying to get their hands into there? I want to go back for a second. So Apple will allow developers to access third-party app stores, but they must be individually approved and require human approval to proceed. I don't know if that's going to be every update or what. This just seems like it's just going to be a disaster for developers and a disaster for users. And if you can't get these third-party app stores where developers will want to go on them, they're destined to fail. And that is going to reduce the user choice, the user be able to get anywhere. And it just seems like this law, the Digital Market Act law in the UU, has created Apple's to be the gatekeeper for all the stuff in there. It, I, I really don't get why this. Maybe it's the law that was bad, right? I haven't fully dug in the EU law. I'm here in the United States, but if you're over there and you want to write down a synopsis, feel free. But what I've read, it seemed like it was supposed to do something, create an alternative store and help with the competition, but it looks like it was written, or at least with Apple took it in such a way that Apple gets more of an iron grip control to make sure that you stay with them and whatever they want you to have and wherever they want you to go, which to me is the exact opposite of what you would want this thing to do. Uh, I like to see user choice. I'm at a loss of words of how bad this, I mean, maybe it's Apple's implementation, how bad Apple's implementing or how bad the law was to allow Apple to do something like this. I don't like government getting involved in a lot of this, in a lot of tech stuff, or, well, my life in general, right? But when a company's acting maliciously like Apple is here with their current app store, with their approval process and everything else, saying that you need a third-party app store and maybe put in there that third-party app store is what you're going to have. You're not going to be able to do anything with it, Apple. It's a third-party app store. You don't get any commission, nothing like that. The third-party app store has control of it. How hard was it to write something like that that Apple couldn't try to take their iron grip and say, hey, this is mine? Instead, Apple's going my way or my way. You have no choice. I mean, Microsoft came out, right? And to relate this to Microsoft Store, right? Microsoft doesn't charge for apps, but they do take a cut for games. So games are 30%. Maybe what Microsoft should do is back that down so they have a little bit more leverage. I guess if they were to have other apps, they have leverage there. But on the gaming side, right, it's 30%, which everything but Epic Games is 30%, if I recall, for these stores. But this is in comparison, right? I, I, I don't get this. So it's a really disappointment, right? Apple. It almost seems to me that Apple looked at Unity and said, "Wow, Unity had a good idea a little bit back there. I know they changed it, but let's implement it into our new app store and let's go from there." Maybe that's what they did, but let me know what your thoughts are below. Let me know if you have a solution to this mess. Um, I know I don't own an iPhone, but I know a lot of people that do, and the, this maybe at some point might come to the United States, so it's something I want to keep my eye on as well. But to me, this is just a step, like like Microsoft and Spotify said, a step in the wrong direction. I like to see all, it'd be fun to have a Microsoft game store, because Microsoft handles that. Epic Games, I think, is saying they're going to make a store, so that's another one. You could see an Amazon, maybe even a Google App Store. You could see a whole bunch of it. That'd be fun to actually see, but right now it looks like Apple's trying to make sure that that does not happen, and we shall see what happens out of all this mess. But leave your thoughts in your comments below on what you think this mess is going to turn out with Apple and the App Store. I want to encourage you to watch another one of my videos because it does really help out the channel, including like, share, and subscribing, and hitting the bell icon. Those things all do help out the channel and help, get it out to more people. I do appreciate that. Until next time, God bless.